Well, we advance our agenda. It's an agenda that includes building on the rights of women and girls in developing countries, getting a small arms treaty that restrains the growth in Kalashnikovs and other destructive weapons around the world. It means promoting a comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty. It means promoting the noble goal of nuclear non-proliferation and ultimately nuclear disarmament. It means using the Australian experience in peacekeeping, the wonderful work done by our peacekeepers in Solomons, East Timor, Cambodia, and Bougainville and Papua New Guinea. It means using that wisdom in other conflicts in the world.
That's quite a list. Do non-permanent members of the Security Council have the weight to achieve those sorts of goals?
We can edge things onto the agenda. Ultimately, we are part of a world community that comprises 193 nation states. And you don't get your way on everything, and you're not a dominating voice. You've got to compromise, you've got to work hard, you've got to make what progress you can towards a world where there's more peace and more security and less conflict.
Can I ask you this? Will it be difficult for Australia in some respects, having to balance, as we always do, the big power players, China and the United States, now that we're sitting at that Security Council table?
We've got to grow up about this. I just advise people to stop thinking of international relations for Australia as being a choice between America and China. It's not. There are a lot of other narratives out there. The Prime Minister's outstandingly successful visit to India is a case in point. The Indian story is very significant. The story of Indonesia, 6% economic growth a year, a robust democracy, a multi-party democracy with freedom of the press. That's a great story too. And we're engaged on a lot of issues, And if we've got to make a choice between China and the United States on some of them, we will. That's part of being on a body like that.
There are differences between China and the United States when it comes to the Security Council. On Syria, most notably, we'll be siding, presumably, with the United States. How will that go down with China?
We'll be siding with the goal of a ceasefire in Syria, and political negotiations to get a peaceful transition from the Assad regime to a government that the people of Syria want. And we ask ourselves, what is the right thing to do? That's the right thing to do. And whether that puts us at odds with the US or at odds with China is a secondary consideration.
In the end, it's the permanent members who have the power of veto. Is there a case for reform of the Security Council?
Oh, there is, and we support the case for reform. We want more transparency in Security Council business for a start, and we want more substantial reforms. We want a bigger Security Council with representation of Japan, of India, of South Africa, another African nation as permanent members, Brazil, but without the power of veto. But getting reform of Australians, a lot of Australians would know how hard it is to change the rules of your local surf club. It's hard to get reform of the UN, which was established on a compromise. That is, nations forgoing some of their sovereignty, but only some of it, to get an effective international peacekeeper.
On another issue that will confront Australia at the Security Council, support for Palestinian representation at the United Nations in the General Assembly. Where will Australia stand on that?
We'll look at the resolution when it's presented. We haven't seen the wording of any resolution yet. We want a two-state solution in the Middle East, and we want compromises by both sides to get that. A two-state solution based on 1967 borders plus land swaps, plus agreed land swaps. And we would urge the leadership of Palestine and the leadership of Israel to move towards that goal. And that means an end to settlement activity in the Palestinian territories.
And a final question, the reaction back home. Tony Abbott welcomes the victory here, but says it's been a very expensive one. He says
it's not been an expensive one.
Well, he says many tens of millions have been spent.
It's been a little under $25 million over 5 years. Over 5 years. And that was money spent promoting Australia. It was money well invested, whether we won this or not. It was money bringing influential people to Australia and showing them our multiculturalism and our functioning cities and our competitive economy. If Tony Abbott has got so limited a vision of this country that he doesn't want to spend a modest amount of money over 5 years to promote it to the world, then he's not a Prime Minister's bootlace.
And will you be having a champagne or two tonight?
I'll be having as soon as I can, I'll be having a generous cup of hot water, boiling water with a slice of lemon.
Bob Carr, thank you.
Thank you, David.